Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're doing well. It's time to take a look at the newest fragrance from Hermes Terre Elixir, which of course everybody right now has. Oh, it can't be right. Where's the? Huh. Okay. It's not an elixir. That's weird. Everything is elixir nowadays. What are they doing? What are they thinking? How dare you put out a fragrance that ain't got elixir in the name? What are you thinking?
You blew it! You had it all and you blew it!
So yeah, this one is actually called Terre d'Hermes Eau de Parfum Intense, which actually, to be fair, that name's kind of boring also. It's not really that much better than an elixir, just as far as naming conventions go. Well, it's an eau de parfum, so throw that on there, and hell, I don't know, intense or something. Good enough. But that's what we are taking a look at today, the new Terre d'Hermes. I ordered mine from overseas, but this one is popping up at Fragrance Buy already, so it's gonna be at discounters, I would assume, with more regularity as time goes on. Because if it's already hit at Fragrance Buy, then that means you know it's gonna pop up everywhere else. So you should be able to pick this one up in the US pretty quickly if you are so inclined. I'll have it linked in the description below in case you want to check this one out. Let's go ahead and get started by taking a peep at that presentation. First up the box. On the front we have the name of the fragrance, the size and concentration, and of course the name of the house as well. And up top you can see it is a natural spray and refillable. You have the name of the house on top of the box, QR code on the side of the box. On the back it has a little infographic showing you how to refill and recharge your bottle. And then on the bottom you have your barcode, which the batch code is actually pretty difficult to read. It is 29721 on my bottle. And here we have the bottle. You have the name of the fragrance right there on the front. The sides are colored this kind of ambery coloration. Reminds me a little bit of the color of the old M7 bottle, which is always right up there, creeping and peeping over my shoulder. You also have on the side of the bottle, the concentration, the size, a lot of info on the fragrance, but frankly, it's really difficult to read. They almost might as well have not even put it there. On the back, you have your badge code etched into the glass. Mine is down here in the corner. Little H on the bottom of the bottle for Hermes. And this has the newer style cap like you find on Eau Givre. So the cap does click into place. And it says Hermes on top of the cap and also on top of the atomizer. Let's go ahead and share a couple sprays. Here we go. Atomizer is solid on this one. And I do want to give Hermes a couple of props for that atomizer, solely because a lot of brands, the majority of brands, are going right now with refillable bottles. And I don't know if that's the exact reason, but a lot of these atomizers are straight up trash nowadays. They don't feel good to spray. They barely poot out like this little spritz of fragrance. They feel cheap. They feel just bad. So specifically, I'm talking about the Boss bottled atomizers. Those are no good right now, especially on the 50 ml size bottles. YSL Y, those ones not very good. And the Most Wanted, those are also straight up garbage. And that is splitting hairs. It's not a huge deal. A lot of people will be like, who cares, man? It still sprays out the fragrance, and that's completely accurate. That is true. But Hermes is doing a refillable bottle here, and the atomizer actually feels okay and works correctly. So it would be cool if all the brands could do that. But enough complaining and whining like a spoiled baby about atomizers. Let's talk about how this smells. Right after I pop up some coupon codes. So those JOMASHOP codes, they are actually running through the end of March. They have been extended and they only work within the app. So the JOMASHOP app, you gotta have that, but then you can use those codes within the app to save yourself some money. Max Aroma has cut us down to one code, the 10% off one. Everything else remains the same, and all the other codes you can use like normal. You don't need an app for them, just JOMASHOPs. All right, let's dig into this fragrance, Terre d'Hermes Eau de Parfum Intense. How does it smell? Well, let's start with the note breakdown. Off the top, it has bergamot and black pepper, coffee, and licorice in the mid, which is kind of interesting, and then lava rock and also woody notes in the base. So that's obviously the standout note, lava stone, lava rocks. And just because I know there's gonna be at least one person out there who's like, wait, how do you get the oil from the lava stone and put it in the fragrance? Wouldn't you burn up? Or is it an already, it's not hot anymore, and you squeeze it and bust it and then you put it in? No, dear friend who is asking that question, and it's okay. I'm not looking down on you. Nobody here is judging you, except Terry in the back. Terry, dude.
You, sir, are an idiot.
It's an accord. So essentially it's something that has been made from different aroma chemicals, ingredients. And the idea with that accord is to get across how they might imagine that to smell. So yeah, it's not an actual lava stone. Thank you for hanging out with me during this TED Talk. Back to the fragrance. When you first spray this one on, it is kind of intense. And the very first time I sprayed it on, my wife kind of ran away from it. And I do think the opening here is going to be a little love it or hate it for a lot of people. It has a very strong mineral forward opening. You've also got green coffee in there, so it's not like a roast coffee with that kind of like bitterness along the edges from the coffee note, though there is a touch of bitterness that we'll get to. It's slightly sour when you first spray it on, so you've got this citrus pop in there, that bergamot, and it works alongside all of that minerality, and it's very much an in-your-face opening. As it starts to dry down, you do pick up a little bit of bitterness in there, which is going to come from that licorice note in the mid, at least to my nose. And that initial hit of minerality is very fizzy, staticky almost. As it dries down though, it mellows out a lot. So by the time you hit the mid, that really jumpy kind of in-your-face opening has settled down a good deal, and it becomes much easier to wear, much more amiable, much more wearable. And that mineral aspect settles down into kind of like a clean slate scent profile, like this kind of clean stone vibe, which will throw it back a little bit to some of the other Terre d'Hermes fragrances. They had like a flint aspect, a flintiness, but it's not as earthy as like the original Terre d'Hermes or Terre d'Hermes Pure Parfum. When you smell it, you can tell it is a Terre d'Hermes, so it's kind of, you know, in that line, in that family tree, you can pick that up. It's just, it's done in a more modern way, which makes sense. So those earthier aspects, that flinty aspect, it's been cleaned up, essentially. The green aspect that you can pick up in the opening carries over into the mid. It's lightly sweet, but this is nowhere close to as sweet as 99% of fragrances coming out nowadays. Just a nice, pleasant, light sweetness. And like I said, off the top, when the bergamot hits, it's also got like a tartness that kind of balances out that little touch of sweetness. And even into the dry down, you still have this tiny hint of the citrus that carries over. It's more like the rindy aspect from the citrus, just a little bit of it carries over into the dry down. And the lava stone aspect adds a very faint touch of smokiness in the far dry down, which really just adds like a little additional depth. It kind of adds some more body to the woods that are in the base. Basically just helps fill out the fragrance a little bit. So it's not anything crazy. You know, when you hear lava stone, you're like, oh, well, how's that gonna go? You could have something that goes very hot, fiery red notes, a whole bunch of spices, things like that. It doesn't do that. It could be something that goes very smoky, very heavy. It doesn't do that. You could also have it, you know, overly earthy, and it doesn't do that. Instead, it's just this evolution of minerality in the fragrance from the opening into the mid into the dry down, and at different parts of the fragrance's lifespan, the way that minerality comes across changes, and the lava stone plays its part in that. So as I said, doesn't really have a lot of sweetness here. This is Terre d'Hermes done in a more modern way, as I said before, with the minerality being a big focus, and the woods, especially as it starts to dry down, coming out more and more. So if you're somebody who's younger, you're looking for something that's more in line with like the vanilla heavy stuff that's been coming out lately, this may not go for you as much, may not work as well for you. But for fans of Terre d'Hermes, I think this is something pretty good. It's really nice, and it adds to that scent profile without taking it away and completely changing it and rearranging it and then saying, oh, here's your new Terre d'Hermes that doesn't really have much to do with Terre d'Hermes. It's not doing that, thankfully. But I do think that overall, it probably will appeal to people that are at least like mid-20s and up, I would guess. But if you are a younger guy and you like how this smells, absolutely wear it. You'll smell great. Now let's talk performance, because this is an intense fragrance. It should have intense performance. And off my skin, it actually works really, really well. As I said earlier about the opening, it can be forceful, it can be a bit in your face, and it is strong in terms of projection when you first spray this on. As it dries down, it does mellow out, but it maintains a really solid scent bubble. It projects well, if not monstrously, still well. And on my skin, it lingers forever. The first time I sprayed this on, when I first got it in the mail, opened it up, sprayed it on, it was early evening. When I woke up the next morning, I could still catch a whiff. Now, I'm not saying it was like filling up my bedroom or anything like that, but it was still there. And it doesn't hurt that the Atomizer actually sprays enough of the fragrance on so that you can pick it up. You don't have to do like 4 or 5 sprays. Novel thought, it's crazy. So for me, the performance here, really nice, no complaints. In terms of seasonality, this is gonna be like spring, fall, it's gonna be your best seasons. That neutral weather, kind of changing of the seasons, that's when I would go for it. Summertime, if I'm going Terre d'Hermes, I'm gonna go Eau Givre over this one. And dead of winter, if you were wanting to go like a little heavier with Terre d'Hermes, I'd go like Pure Parfum. That would probably be my choice. But I think fall and spring, this one is really, really well suited for those seasons. And you can wear it during winter. I mean, it projects well, it lasts a long time. So you can wear this during winter. It's just, if you want that more typical, like heavier aspect, that's when you go for the Parfum. So there's Terre d'Hermes EDP Intense. Maybe not a name that's gonna get people absolutely clamoring to find out what it's about. A little bit low key in terms of how it's presented. But for fans of Terre d'Hermes, I think the majority of you are gonna really enjoy this one. I gotta say, the first spray, I was, my wife, as I said, ran away from me, and I was smelling it. I was like, oh man, I don't know. Because it does come across in the initial opening, like the first 5 minutes, like maybe a little messy. And it got me thinking, oh God, this is gonna be rough. This is gonna be pretty terrible. Then as it dries down, it gets a lot better. As long as you like this type of scent profile, again, it is not sweet. It is woods and minerality and a touch of a slightly sour citrus. That's really what's going on here. If that doesn't sound good to you, that is totally okay, because if that does not sound good and you blind buy this, you are probably not gonna be happy. So save yourself the unhappiness. But otherwise, check it out as soon as you can. So there we go, TDH EDP Intense. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves. See you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.